It's June 24th, 2021. This is Roqe. Well, she is an Iranian-Canadian comedian and commentator who has taken the internet by storm with her very funny posts and poignant observations. Sahar Golshani is a diaspora kid, but she's very, very Persian and has a lot to say about our culture and practices, and she does so with amazing candor and confidence that you can hear on her podcast, Unfiltered. She also happens to be the co-founder of the popular Chalod's design clothing brand, Sahar Golshani, coming up in the Roqe Studio, plus a new edition of It's All Persian to Us with Kyan. This is conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 121 of Roqe. Hope you're keeping well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Salam dostan aziz, امیدوار هستم که خوب و میزون هستین. Hello to you from Canada, or if you're in Canada, hello to you from also Canada. Kyan.
Are you going somewhere with this?
I'm just trying to tell people we're in Canada and we're saying hello to them.
I think they got it.
Shai, can you turn me up a little bit, please? Yeah. All I can hear is Kyan, which
I don't see anything
is someone's dream,
that.
but not mine. No, it's lovely.
It's Reza's dream.
That's right. It's Reza's dream.
Better now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you turn yourself down?
For the rest of the show, please.
We're coming to you on roqemedia.com. It is there that you can link to all of our platforms. We're on an ongoing mission to build a new audio-visual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. So our podcast platforms are Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, and Telegram. If you'd like to see some visuals with Roqe and see us on social media, you can find us or switch over to YouTube or Instagram right now. And if you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in English and in Persian, in Farsi, do check us out on Telegram. It's Roqe Media everywhere, including, as I say, our website, roqemedia.com. So the fabulous Kyan, Sahar Golshani, coming up in this studio in just a few moments. I'll kick you out. She'll come in here. I'm a fan.
I am too. She's hilarious. There's no other way to put it.
She is really funny, and she also amazing and profound observations about our culture. She's really nailed it in terms of being someone who's grown up in the diaspora and who I've got to ask her about why and how she is so Iranian, because she didn't grow up in Iran
You're
at
right,
all.
Right.
She's very, very
she wasn't
Persian.
Born there,
and she doesn't have a latch. She doesn't speak Persian with an accent. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's amazing. We had her on our Clubhouse town halls a few times, and she's great. And she also has, I like her podcast. It's called Unfiltered. Mm-hmm. There's this episode that she did called My Dark Past. Now, I'm sure just knowing Sahar, I'm sure a lot of our chat is going to be fun and funny, but this My Dark Past episode, where she opens up about her family and some of the difficulties she's had and some themes that I think will be quite universal for a lot of Iranians, I want to ask her about that. And it is so raw, the way she talks about her past, especially in that episode, that I think she does a great service to folks out there who will be able to relate and find solace in knowing that there's somebody out there who's gone through difficult things with vis-a-vis her parents, and particularly her dad. So we'll get to all of that. Sahar Golshani coming up in the Roqe Studio. Hello to you, Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Groovy Shaya.
Hi, Azizam.
Hello, Azizam.
Extra groovy today.
Yeah. How come the rest of you don't call me Azizam? He always calls me Azizam.
It feels unnatural.
Yeah.
I don't really think of you that way. You're not so Aziz.
If you said Azizam, I'd be like, ew, why?
Yeah.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
happening? You're my sister.
The other day you told me Jana.
I know.
I was like, what?
Well, Shia and I have a whole other intimate kind of relationship.
Romantic.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if you guys, sorry, I was running in here. Sometimes before we start our program, we used to say in the band, see a man about a horse. I have to go and geesh,
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I should tell this story, but like just now, this just happened. You know when do you know that there's a bathroom there's the women's and the men's, and then there's the
handicap,
non-binary
private.
in the middle. Yeah,
Yes,
like you can just anybody can use it, but it's also an accessible bathroom. And so sometimes in a rush, I run in, you run in that one, and if there's nobody in there. They've instituted these things where it's a, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Where it's a,
I have anxiety.
It's a non-touch open and close. Let me try to explain this to the audience. So when you walk into I guess this is because of COVID.
Right.
This fabulous building has put these buttons in right near the door. So, and one of them is if you wave your hand in front of it, the door will close and lock. And then the other is if you wave your hand in front of it, the door will open. And they're right next. Like, what brainiac put these right next to each other, right? So I really had to geesh, and I run in. And like, first of all, there's all kinds of anxiety. It's like, can I just close the door?
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to close that. You can't actually manually close the door. You have to let the electronics do their work. So I'm in the room, and I'm starting to like anticipating the electronic door closing itself, right? And I'm trying to do this with efficiency. So I'm starting to pull down my pants.
Oh my God.
And no, I mean, the door's starting to close. And so I wave my hand in front of the thing. Tell me this hasn't happened to you. If you guys had this, I wave my hand in front of the thing to lock it. And then as my hand crosses the lock, it crosses the other button too, and then it opens.
Oh God!
I mean, it was like a scene out of, that movie Lost in Translation, where Bill Murray's in Japan and he's trying to work in his hotel room. He's trying to work all the buttons, and he doesn't know what they do, and the gadgets. I mean, the door keeps opening and closing. A man just wants to, relieve himself and do his show, right?
I would just hold off on pulling down your pants before you actually clog
I
the
didn't
door.
totally pull them. I don't want to, I mean, I had started. The process was
I
was trying to go as fast as I could to get to the studio here.
No, worse than that happened to me the other day. I was sitting there, and I thought it was closed because the same situation. Like I waved, I'm like, okay, it said click,
and you don't know if it's locked or not. You're not allowed to lock it anymore. 100%. You have to put your hand, flow your hand over the button. I mean, this is the equivalent of, those taps where you spend half an hour trying to get the water to come out because it's a hands-free. It's this, but you don't know if you've locked the door. You're in a bathroom, right?
No, and I hadn't actually locked the door. So this gentleman with mask and earphones on, he opened the door, and I'm saying, excuse me. And he just kept walking in. And he saw me sitting there, and I'm like, sorry, buddy. It didn't lock. So
No shame.
He was more embarrassed than I was, I guess.
Wow. Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about, right? The anxiety of these buttons.
Yeah, it's happened to me. I did not have my pants down while it happened. I find that a little odd. But.
Listen, how long do you? If you really have to go to the bathroom, you walk it. You go in. First of all, this door, it takes a long time to open and close.
Yeah, you're right.
So you have to wait there while it closes.
Yeah.
I like to start the process of getting ready for,
It's even more awkward as it's closing and you see people walking by making eye contact. It's like, I'm, here to do the business.
I feel bad. It's probably because it also functions as an accessibility bathroom.
Right.
So, but I'm not sure that this is helping because there's no manual control. There's no ability to control what's going on in there. Listen, the content gets much richer from here. We promise you. If you, because I'm doing the pitch for patrons now, right after this. If you like what you're hearing on this program, I was thinking about, people probably hear me say this each episode. The regular listeners of Roqe hear me go, hey, become a patron of Roqe. And this really is how we really want to do this program, with as little advertising and with as little sort of corporate, logos everywhere on our products, is to crowdfund this. And we do that through asking you folks to be patrons. So you go to our website, roqemedia.com, you press the support us button, and then you can become a patron for $5 or $10 a month. And, I think if you do listen regularly, and you kind of have been one of those people who just glosses over at this point, you go, yeah, he's asking about patrons. If you could become a patron, it'd be really great for us, because and we always get so overjoyed, even if it's $5 a month, $10 a month. You can, there's more available as well, but it means a lot to us, and it means that you're part of our circle, our team, and become a patron.
It keeps us alive, and it keeps this project ongoing, and that's the dream, and we can only do it with your help.
Yes.
It would help. I can get haircut.
That's not what it'll be used for. That's not. By the way, you are. We say this every episode, but you're transforming into a character from The Hobbit.
Looks like a chia pet.
The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings. You've got. It's just turning into. I don't know what's happening with you.
Bobo Baggins.
The Princess Bride. Well, yeah. It's various characters from films that with.
Your hair is expanding upwards. I didn't know it was capable.
Sort of an afro. It's like not an afro, but it's like curly now.
I think because of the weather, because the humidity in the weather.
Captain Reza, by the way, he's given up on the, what's the Twitter guy named? Jack Dorsey. He's given up on the beard.
Oh,
he's
that's right,
shaved the beard a little bit and cut his hair. He looks like a handsome guy again.
Normal.
Yeah, he's not that handsome.
By the way, if you don't want to be a patron, or if you are a patron, you could also be a sponsor of Roqe. And speaking of which, a shout out to someone in the global Persian community who's doing really fine things in terms of paying it forward and supporting community projects. Mo Rahimian and his company Inshufin. He is in Canada, left Iran, came to the West in 2002, and he'd been involved in electronics in Iran and basically had to completely start over, as many folks do when he arrived here. And he has built this solid reputation as one of the most trusted folks in financial planning, insurance, and investment. He started this company called Inshufin. Maybe as important, he believes in giving back to and supporting the Iranian community and culture. So he takes most all of his profits and puts them back into supporting Iranian community films, events, art galleries. He sees the role of community members in the diaspora to support each other. So a big thank you to Mo Rahimian and Inshufin for doing what you do for the community and for helping make these episodes happen. Thanks, Mo. I want to mention who we have coming on the show on Monday, speaking of our community, and this is more of our global community. Dr. Shaheen Nouri. Kyan, I know you know about him because you posted about him on Instagram. Dr. Shaheen Nouri is an Iranian-American neurologist. He's based out of New York City. He's actually the founder and director of the Comprehensive Epilepsy Center at the New York Presbyterian Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. So Dr. Shaheen Nouri, in other words, he's a prestigious doctor in our diaspora. He's also someone who's suffering from an illness right now. He was last spring diagnosed with a very rare and aggressive form of lymphoma. Now, we'll get more into the details of this when I actually speak to him. But this is a very severe form of lymphoma, as well as a severe immunodeficiency. And at this point, his only hope of survival, he's talked a bit about this, made a couple of videos talking about this. He's a very modest guy, and I know it took a lot for him to even make these videos. He has about 3 months to live. His only hope of survival is a stem cell transplant from the blood of a healthy, compatible donor within the next few months. Now, here's the interesting part, and this is the part where when we talk about, as Iranians, people of Iranian background, we're like everybody else. Mosefidim, we're white people, we're Caucasian. Mm-hmm. The most likely stem cells that will work for him, by a long shot, are people of Iranian background. between the ages of 18 to 35 in Canada, 18 to 44 in the United States. That's the most likely kind of stem cell that will allow him to survive.
Wow.
This is when the chips are down. You really realize that there is something in us, there is, whether it's race or blood, however you want to describe it, that, this is now medical. This is the only way this person can survive is to get a stem cell transplant, and the transplant most likely has to come from an Iranian. Now, I don't want to focus the whole, and there's a side issue with this, which is that part of the reason he's having trouble getting this transplant is because in the stem cell bank, there's people who donate stem cells. Yeah. Only 1% of the global bank of stem cells is people of Middle Eastern background. There's very, very few stem cells of folks of Iranian background. I'm not sure. I'm probably not even describing this correctly. I'll get into a lot more of the details when we speak to him on Monday. That's part of his campaign. It's quite selfless, where he's saying, look, don't make this about me. Let's make this about building a stem cell bank for people who are going to be in this situation. And I don't know if that's because of the government of Iran or our culture or why we don't have this bank of stem cells of people of Iranian background, but he sure needs it. And so I'm honored that he's going to come on. We're not going to spend the whole time just talking about lymphoma. I want to hear about what he does as a doctor, what he has built this epilepsy center himself. I mean, he was the guy who founded it, and he's a prominent neurologist. We'll get to all of that. But Dr. Shaheen Noori coming up on Monday on Roqe. And in the meantime, we'll put, if you're watching us on YouTube or Instagram right now, you'll see we've put up the link to an Instagram page where you can support him, and we'll link to that in our description for this program as well. If you haven't seen it already, you can find the link there on any platform you're listening to this on, in case you know someone, or if you are somebody between the age of 18 and 35 who thinks you can donate stem cells and help Dr. Noori survive. And wherever you're listening to us in the world, I think this is, this is something that's important. I don't know if Dr. Shaheen Noori will be able to use, I don't know if there's international regulations around this. He might need somebody in the States, but for sure, stem cells are needed everywhere for Iranians in the diaspora. So this is important. Next Thursday on the program, it's actually Canada Day, which is a holiday for those of you who are not from Canada, or this is our national day. And on that day, we're going to have Dr. Reza Moridi as our guest, who Canadians will surely know as was the first Iranian-Canadian prominent politician in this country and a cabinet minister in the Ontario government. Dr. Reza Moridi, also a scientist himself. And also in the coming days on Roqe, Tara Tiba, the fabulous musician who's now in Australia, and Behzad Bulur, the broadcaster of BBC fame and the musical encyclopedia. Looking forward to having him on the program. We have It's All Persian to Us today, right?
Yes. Would you like a clue?
Yes, I would like a clue.
It has something.
It has something
to do.
It has something to do with the way we are talking.
I don't know where that came from. That was weird. All that fondness just erupted from me.
It has something. Baby.
It has something to do with cats. Yes.
The musical?
No.
The shit movie?
No, quite the contrary to that.
Persian cats.
No, not Persian cats, just cats in general and how they were utilized.
All right. A new edition of It's All Persian to Us coming up. Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya, the fabulous Kyan. Okay, let's clear the studio and bring in our featured guest. And my featured guest today is something of a sensation on social media, and the co-founder of the Chalad's design clothing brand. Sahar Golshani is an Iranian-Canadian comedian and commentator who was born in Turkey, moved to Vancouver when she was 2 months old, and then moved to Toronto in 2013. She is a self-proclaimed whitewashed FOB, fresh off the boat, who is known as an unfiltered, unapologetic Iranian girl who isn't afraid to speak her mind. And you can witness that candor, that is, and that comedy on her popular podcast called Unfiltered. Sahar's motto is, "You think it, but I say it." And it couldn't ring more true to her character, having never been to Iran, but heavily invested in our Persian culture. She brings a fresh take on issues and traditions within the Iranian community with a touch of humor to make it digestible for the average listener. She's currently working on a one-woman interactive comedy show, and she hopes to inspire more Iranians to not care so much about what others think. But first, right now, Sahar Golshani joins me in the Roqe Studio. Hello.
Golshani.
It's Golshani. And I know you care about this.
Because everyone
But at least I didn't call you Sahar.
Yeah, Sahar.
Sahar Golshani.
Golshani, yes.
Jesus.
Everyone
it's
says
not
Golshani.
easy.
I don't know why.
Because Golshani sounds right, doesn't it?
I don't know. Maybe.
Sahar Golshani. Let me do the last line again. And right now, Sahar Golshani joins me in the Roqe Studio. Did that feel better?
Yes.
It's so nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
I read the part in the intro where it says you want to inspire Iranians to not care so much about what others think. I mean, this is kind of a leading question in that I think I know the answer, but do Iranians disproportionately care what others think?
100%. That they lead their whole lives by, if I do this, what is this person going to think or say or feel? And they never do what they want to do.
They meaning we.
Well, yeah.
I
guess. Are you that way? Do you care?
Unfortunately, it's a lifelong battle to not
really?
care. But
no, I really genuinely don't care.
But I grew up with a mother who was like shushed us when we spoke outside the house, you know. Mi fahmen ma darim chi migem. It's like, Mom, they don't even speak Farsi. Like, you know, mi fahmen ke Farsi darim harf mizan. They'll understand we're speaking Farsi. Like, everything was something to worry about, you know. So
my mom was like that too, except I was just a little shit, and I was like, I don't care. I'm just gonna do it anyways.
I mean, I get that you don't care now, but
no, I was always like
really,
this. Yeah,
you never cared.
Never.
High school.
Never.
You didn't really.
I just, as long, I have this theory not theory, but like mindset, whereas as long as you're not being disrespectful and like outright just, you know, vulgar, tell people how you feel. Be honest. It's just honesty.
No, but honest. Well, wait a second. That's one thing, honesty. But caring about what others think of you. Yeah.
Well, then you can be honest because you don't care what people are gonna think. You know what I mean?
But I mean,
you're not being apprehensive of, like, maybe I shouldn't say how I think or how I feel about something because this person's going to feel bad. Like with my friends, one of the reasons why, and I asked them, I'm like, why do you guys like me? Like, why are you friends with me? They're like, well, because you're the only person who will tell us what the real truth.
They can trust that it's not coming. There's no errors. You're not bullshitting. But,
exactly.
but on the other hand, I mean, do you care if somebody writes in right now and having listened to this and says, this person is, I don't know, doesn't sound smart. You don't care.
That's their opinion and they're entitled to it. And it's not that everyone has different opinions and
that is so balanced. Before the end of this interview, I got to figure out whether you actually mean that though.
No, I swear.
You really don't care. Would you care what anyone thinks? What about somebody you want to impress?
No, because I never want to impress anyone.
You don't want to impress. I mean, surely you have an idol. You have a.
I don't. Is that weird? Everyone's like, oh, do you have like a celebrity crush or do you have like someone you look up to? No. Like I always tell this, I guess, to my followers too, because they're like, who's your idol again? And I'm like, me in like the best like point of life. I strive to be that person. That person's my idol.
Wow. But wait a second. I know you're into music, right?
I'm yeah.
Okay. So is there who's your favorite artist? Name an artist that you love. Doesn't have to be Iranian or do you?
I really like Sevdaliza. I like how she's different.
Okay.
And she does her own thing.
So if she writes to you on, social media, you don't care what she thinks of you?
No, I wouldn't fangirl either. I wouldn't really be like, oh my God, like that's what that's what you're supposed to do. But no, I would just be like, oh my God, this is so cool. But isn't that
fun? I'm a lifelong fan of David Bowie. If I ever met him, I'd be like, I would be das Poche. I mean, he's dead. But
here's the thing, like I have another mindset where I'm like, I never put people on a pedestal. Like it doesn't matter who you are, you're still a human. You might have just done different things, and you might be into different, make different art or make different music, but you're still a human.
But how far do you go with not caring? Now, I can't believe I'm defending the the Iranian mindset of caring. Shouldn't people care about what we think? So I'm assuming, first of all, let's put that you don't care about driving a BMW or any of that.
I don't even
nonsense.
drive a car. I'm against driving cars.
But that's this is like, oh my God, what are you saying? But let's say a friend of yours.
Yeah.
So Irfan is your friend, a common friend of ours. So if Irfan says, what you said really hurt me. I didn't feel good about what you said on your podcast the other day. It felt like it was that wouldn't bother you?
No. If it's not rude and if it's not, something malicious.
Wow. Yeah. What is your theory about why Iranians disproportionately care so much what others think?
Because of that perfectionist persona that we want to portray 24/7. Everything's great. We have the best life, best husband or wife, best kids. And I guess, I don't know, I've never been to Iran, but my theory is because in Iran you have to live a double life, I guess that kind of pushes it forward as well.
What do you mean by that? Double life.
So you're one person outside of your home and then you're another inside, and you're kind of forced to live like that. So when you're outside, you just want to present the best version of yourself and the most G-rated, I guess. So it kind of trickles down and it translates into our whole culture, I guess. I think. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. But
so we're an entire nationality or ethnicity or whatever you call us of imposters.
Kind of. I mean, I feel like that's a little bit of a harsh word. I think we just...
Not just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're all bullshitting, then
we really like perfection. So that's what we're always trying to portray.
Yes. And this expresses itself in all kinds of ways. I mean, I've said this on the show many times where I did come from, I love my parents to death, but I came from a family where, if it was like, oh, Dad, I got an A, but Reza got A+, right? It would always be something that you're not, there's more work to be done.
Okay.
And so I get that perfectionism thing. I don't know why in particular we're that way. In some cases, it generalizes as the immigrant experience. But
we just want to be superior at all times.
Right. And somehow
we're the best.
We know we're not. Because we have to tarif about how we're superior.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually one of the biggest things that kind of shook my entire existence, because you grow up and you hear all these things about how Iran's the best, Iran invented this, Iranian art, and we're number one. And then you grow up and you're like, that is so far from the truth. What are you guys telling us when we're growing up? It's such lies. My entire life was lies.
I mean, there is some great Iranian art.
For sure. And I swear to God, after this podcast, people, it happens every time I talk about it. Sahar only shits on Iranians. And it's no, I swear, you need to be able to talk about these things in order to fix them.
Yeah. I mean, you do. I mean, the notion of unfiltered is actually, I was thinking about it in preparation for this. I mean, it's basically antithetical to the average Iranian family. And I guess that's partly your point, right? Is I'm going to defy the cultural rules, and I'm going to be unfiltered.
That is exactly. Defiance, that is my middle name.
And surely that comes as a shock to some folks.
A lot of people. Another thing that maybe some Iranians have a problem with, when they are met with something that they don't understand, instead of being like, okay, let me have an open mind towards it and let me, read about it more or kind of invite it in and learn about it, they just meet it with negativity, right away, just no, that's not right. So that's a lot of times, a lot of people kind of react to my content or my podcasts like that. And I mean, بهشون حق میدم, you know what I mean? I talk about sex and drugs and all that kind of stuff. So it's it makes sense.
Now, the orthodoxy would be to think this is generational. In other words, the older folks are going to get offended and the younger generations are less offended. Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
That's borne out.
Yeah.
So you don't have 25-year-olds going, "Oh my God, I can't believe,"
No,
usually
yeah. Or like how we were talking right before the podcast, it's people who have either moved from Iran recently or still live in Iran. They're a little bit like, ooh, like Sahar's fucking unhinged. Like,
So people who are in Iran listen to the podcast.
they do, and they love it.
And they love it.
Crazy.
But one gets the impression that they're listening to it in the corner of a room quietly with the volume down or something.
Yeah. Even with my Instagram stories sometimes, like I'll get messages every day and they'll be like, I was listening to this in front of my mom. Like, put some sort of trigger warning before we like watch your stories, because all of a sudden, like in the middle of your story, you're like, "Kos," and like my mom's like, "What the hell?"
But your mom's got to be used to it at this point.
Oh yeah, my
she's
mom's super cool.
There's no shock factor with Sahar with your mom.
No. She's used to it.
Knowing a little bit about you as a kid, which I'm going to ask you about. When did you know you wanted to do the idea of Unfiltered?
I don't remember, honestly. I was just like, I should do a podcast, and then I just did it. I don't remember when. I don't even know how many years I've been doing it. A year or two, maybe?
You really don't.
I really don't.
You don't. I mean, you're part of your day. Part of what you do is you're a social media manager or a person who handles social media for various companies and clients out there. And you don't know how long you've been doing your podcast?
Yeah, just that's with everything that I do. I never have like a set like I'm very organic in everything I do. Like if it happens, it happens, and that's maybe not that great, but like
well, it's part of what I love about what you do, because there's no sense of, and we'll get into this a bit later, but there's no sense that you're doing this to get wealthy or for monetizing it or whatever. It's coming from the heart.
I just do it for the culture.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For which culture?
Iranian culture, for sure.
You do it for Iranian culture.
For all the kids like me who grew up, in Kharij and
outside
didn't have someone like me to listen to. Because one of the problems, especially I've noticed in my family, again, I've never been to Iran. Neither has my sister was born here. My cousins were all born here as well. And what I've noticed is, and I used to be like this before I got a little bit more Persianized. When you grow up here, you kind of reject your culture because the only things you're subjected to are very cringy, surface level, like Persian satellite TV kind of stuff.
Right.
So you reject it because you're like, ew, that's fob. And like you'll hear all the kids saying it. Oh, like I don't want to do that. Like that's fob.
Yes.
So I want to be that person that they can look to and be inspired by and kind of be proud of their culture.
Yes.
Be like, oh, okay, like make Iran cool again.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there's cool stuff about our culture that,
I mean, I think there's different versions of that.
Yeah,
there's
for
the karate woman or the Farid Shafinuri interesting musician guy or whatever. There's different versions of people who are doing that.
Yeah.
I like to think we're doing a version of that with Roqe too, but that isn't what you would describe as, I don't know, that older generation LA version of
surface level,
the ornate columns outside the house and the well, you're mission accomplished to a certain extent in terms of what you're doing. It's funny when you talk about not being from Iran. It was one of the first talking points that I wanted to get to with you, because you even call yourself a fob, like fresh off the boat, whitewashed one. I'll get into that distinction, but I mean, dude, like you grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
Like my bag of peste from Iran has spent more time in Iran than you,
But if you look at it though, if you compare me to other kids who have grown up here or who maybe even were born in Iran and moved here at a younger age, and I don't want to like come off as like, oh, I'm so much better, but like I'm a lot more Irani than them. I speak.
But why are you
Farsi.
so? That's why
I love being Irani, but I love the good parts of it. I hate the bad parts of it, and I like will not hesitate to like shit on the bad parts, but I love the good parts. And the problem is that usually people will hear me venting about the bad parts, and they'll be like, Sahar only shits on her culture. But it's like, no.
Okay, so
I
sidebar.
Yeah.
What are the good parts? Let's get those out of the way so people know you're not just shitting on
so
culture.
many good artists that we have, and we were
Okay.
talking about this before. Every time I find like a new Iranian artist, I promote the shit out of them. I discover so many people as well.
You knew, for example, Danny Asadi and
Yeah,
After
yeah.
Hill before most of us did.
Yeah.
And you promoted them.
Yeah. Or like Chai too. She's a Iranian singer in New Zealand. She's amazing. And
Okay.
so like our art is really good. Our people are really good.
Our people are really good?
Yeah, they are.
What do you mean?
Like, how can I say this?
The same people you said are two-faced.
Our successful people, like the people who are doing good things are good.
Okay.
I don't know how to say this to make it sound, to make it make sense.
But I mean, you grew up in Canada. You could be celebrating, the good Canadian people, Margaret Atwood, and I don't know, whatever. I'm so curious about how you have become. I mean, even hearing you talk on your podcast, you're interviewing Rana Mansour, for example, and she grew up in the States and you grew up in Canada, but you're throwing in Persian words, and you're very Persian.
Yes, I am.
And
people don't even like when I tell them that I've never been to Iran.
Yeah,
they're like, "What?"
No, and
You're
I
lying.
get the love for it. I mean, I feel obviously, I feel the umbilical cord. I'm doing a show about it.
Yeah.
But you. I mean, I would have thought you came 5 years ago from Iran, and you just have a Canadian accent or something. How do you think that happened?
Again, it's just I think it's my mom. From a very young age, she instilled just this pride of my culture. And also, I think when you go to school here, you kind of want to assimilate and be like all the other kids. But for me, I guess it kind of goes back to that not giving a fuck and not wanting to be like everyone else. I was like, you know what? Me being Iranian and my culture is what makes me different from Ashley and Samantha and Sarah. So I'm going to focus on that because that's what makes me beautiful, and that's what makes me an amazing person.
You enjoyed being different
Yes,
as a kid.
I hate normalcy. Just anything
Good for you.
normal. Like if I see everyone doing something, I'm one of those people who will just walk the opposite way and be like, nope, not for me.
Now, fresh off the boat fob is usually, or it can be used as it can be used as a negative, a way of
Yeah, it depends
saying
on how
something
you
negative
use
about
it.
it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
kind of say it lovingly.
No,
Do you-
because it's an endearing term if you use it. It really depends on the context.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm proud to be a fob. I guess.
So what? But even though you're not, I
Yeah.
mean, you were fresh off the boat from Vancouver, I guess, to Toronto. But so what is a whitewashed fob?
I have the best of both worlds. So I have the good aspects of the Iranian culture, so the art and the traditions and the celebrations and all and the history, but I don't have the bad things. So my whitewashedness is I'm not materialistic, or I'm not overly judgmental, or I don't care about what people think as much.
You're not Ghairati.
I'm not Ghairati at all. Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know how to explain Ghairati to people who are listening who don't speak Farsi. It's such I've only in recent years come to understand it myself. It's so sophisticated.
It is.
And
it
weird,
is.
you know. But I mean, Iranians
Maybe it's
know
like an inconsistent need to be validated by your partner that you're the only one for them.
Right.
Maybe
it's
I
some
don't know.
version of jealousy / possession
Yes.
/ affection.
Yeah, weird affection.
Weird affection. So you're not that.
No, not at all. At all.
So if you could date a Canadian guy, you're the whitewashed, but would that be difficult for you because you're so?
Yeah, because you just can't relate on so many things.
Because you're so Persian.
Yes, exactly. I always tell people this. I'm like, I don't belong to either groups. I'm too whitewashed for the Iranians, and I'm too Iranian for the white people. So I'm in this weird purgatory like place.
Right.
I'm like a weird unicorn.
But you're not too whitewashed for those who are loving you in Iran, who are following you, I guess.
Yeah. To a certain extent.
Did you grow up around Persians?
My my family, but like
otherwise it was Ashley and Jane.
Yeah. I mean, I went to like Farsi class.
Oh, you did?
I Persian danced for like 16, 17 years.
You know, I saw somewhere in one of your bios something about a dance academy. And
I had my own like dance
What
academy.
is that? You started a dance academy? I wasn't sure if that was a joke.
No,
because
I danced.
It's not part of the you I've gotten to know.
I know. A lot of people don't know because it's like my life in Vancouver that I like shed when I moved here. But yeah, I started with Vancouver Parks National Ballet at the age of 4. I think I was like their youngest student. And then I danced with them for like 10 years. And then I started my own dance academy. And then
at what age did you start your own dance academy? I mean, you like, only left there in your teens, right?
Yeah. 15, 16.
What? Okay, that's pretty ambitious. Mm-hmm. How did it go?
It was good. Yeah, we had a whole bunch of students. We performed a lot of places.
What happened to the dance academy?
I moved here and then I just didn't have time because I don't know. I really don't know. It just kind of fizzled out. And when you move to a new place, it's just hard to like get to know the community. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of over it. I was like,
why did you move to Toronto?
I was initially supposed to go to law school.
Oh, okay.
U of T, but then I dropped out. Excuse me.
You're having a reaction to even saying the words law school.
Yeah. That's like, چشم مامان has law school. Drop out.
I know. As soon as you mentioned it, they started coughing and you couldn't speak and you were,
Yeah, I dropped out and I was like,
but you stayed in Toronto.
Yeah, I liked it because Vancouver is very laid back. It's very West Coast. I mean, I miss going camping every weekend and hiking and stuff, but Toronto is very city life. So there's a lot more opportunity here. There's a lot more people here, obviously, because it's bigger.
Is the Persian community different in Vancouver compared to the one in Toronto? I mean, obviously it's smaller, but is it?
Yes.
Is it a different kind of Persian?
It is because Vancouver is a lot more expensive to live in, and I feel like the Iranians there have been there for longer. Mm-hmm. So there's not as many newcomers, but then in Toronto there's
a lot of
newcomers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Part of the reason that I asked if you grew up with Iranians or Persians is because your characters, I mean, you're very funny. Like it's if people haven't checked it out, they've got to check you out on YouTube or on your Instagram or on your podcast. And you sometimes do these characters. You have this one sort of squeaky voiced little girl type character who speaks in English and in Persian.
Yeah.
And I wondered if is she inspired by somebody you knew? Where did she come from?
No, I just use this. You're talking about the filter with the big mouth?
Yes.
That's just whenever I want to rant or vent about something, I just use that filter so people know, like, oh, okay, she's spitting.
So whenever it's her, and is that character you?
Yeah.
It's just you.
It's just me.
But it's got a squeaky voice.
It's because I don't wear makeup, and I'm not that confident to go on social media without no filters, and then that just makes everything funnier. I feel like.
But
so
can
I just
you do the voice, or is that
no?
No, you've pitched the voice.
It's a filter on Snapchat.
Oh, it's a filter.
Yeah,
I see. That's what you mean by filter. I keep thinking of visual filters.
No,
okay,
like
okay.
actual Snapchat filter. Yeah.
And you did that once, and then you stuck with it.
Yeah, it just makes it. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because you believe in being unfiltered and ranting, and yet you're using a filter to rant.
It's because I'm not confident to not have makeup on. You know what I mean?
So if you don't...
I wish I could. I mean, sometimes I do and I don't care, but like sometimes I just look really shit. So I'm like, and I need to say something. So I'm like,
And when the things that you opine about, the social commentary around Persian culture... do you have a list of things that
no, just whatever pisses me off that day.
It comes up that day and you do it. I mean, some of this stuff is super successful. Like it's hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah.
And it can be something that do you script it?
No. Just right off the fly.
You never script it.
I don't script anything really.
Because it's it's like well written. I mean, it's
really?
like it's comedy. I mean, it's like somebody, came up with an idea and
it's just me being me. You know what I mean? I just turn on the camera and I just speak. Like, I think even Instagram, the way it kind of blew up, I used to do this all the time. Even when I was a kid, And we had one of these like big ass camcorders back in the 90s.
Yeah, you were making little films.
Yeah,
or something,
I would
right?
just be like, Mom, film me, and I would just stand in front of the camera and talk. Like, it's just I've always done this. I just like
and
sharing.
everybody always knew Sahar was the funny one.
Yeah, they just
Sahar Golshani.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to
Practicing
be
the
the
way I
funny
say
one
it.
though.
You what?
You have to be the funny one where you're like the only Iranian girl in the class and you have like a unibrow and a mustache. Like it's either be funny or die. Like
Yeah, unfortunately, I know what it's like to not. I mean, there's I have dear friends and maybe even family members who weren't the funny one, who just felt like the odd duck in the class,
Yeah.
right? And you're lucky you had that gift of that humor. How do we walk the line between having fun with our culture and giving haters ammunition against Iranians? So when you're talking about something that frustrates you about being Iranian, do you ever wonder, if a non-Iranian is watching this, if this is going to feed some sort of, stereotype or something?
not really, because for every like rant or for every negative thing that I post like 3 good things. So I don't really think about that ever. It doesn't really cross my mind.
Are there things that you want to say that you don't say because you think this is just going too far about Iranians?
Never.
No.
No.
I like that you even do that, like somebody who's just come from Iran.
It's true though, and then it's it's why I get into a lot of shit and why within Iranian media I've been blacklisted.
Have you?
Yeah, everyone knows. They're like, Sahar's a liability. She's like too honest. Like I've been passed up for certain shows or opportunities because they're like, she's too honest.
How do you know that?
Insider information.
You've been blacklisted by Iranian media.
Yeah.
Like
or
the big networks, you mean?
Oh yeah, or
something.
like one of my big videos that went viral a couple of years ago. I did this whole 2-part series where I called out Radio Javan.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, because I have a lot of friends that are artists.
Yeah.
So they're venting to me, but they can't say anything about it, right?
Yeah, it's this unspoken kind of...
Exactly. And then, so I'm like, you know what? Like, this is bullshit. So I just did a whole video. They responded with the stupidest response. So I made another video. And then since then, people have just been like,
so
okay.
so Radio Javan felt the need to respond to you.
Oh yeah, because they knew me. Like I know the owners and stuff from before.
And what was the response?
Just random. Well,
you don't want to get into it?
Well, I mean,
you want to get back into this shit again? Yeah.
For sure. The rant that I made was one thing I do on my Instagram is I'll go through Iranian music videos and I'll what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my god.
Comment.
Yes,
yeah.
I will comment on them. Roast them. There we go.
Roast them. All right.
So I noticed that Radio Javan's artists, because they have like some artists that are under their own label, and I noticed that some of their music videos are direct copies of Western music videos. So the rant started with, why are we doing this? You guys have such a big budget. You guys have all the amenities and everything that you need to make amazing music videos. Why are you copying Western music? Like what? Why? And then Mishin and Megan, oh, we have so much honar. We have so much this, bro. Like, be original. And then their response
By the way,
was...
sometimes the music itself is derivative as well. But anyway.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Yeah. So no, I'm getting you started, please.
So then they reply and they're like, well, if we have the means to do it and if the quality is good enough, it doesn't matter if it's a copy.
Where did they say that? Would they make a statement or something?
No, he WhatsApp. We were talking,
okay.
And I was like, what? So then I made another video. Right. These idiots don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So poor Radio Javan was twisting in the wind.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't. I mean, did it make a ripple? Yes, but it didn't really initiate big change.
You didn't destroy them.
No, of course not. Yeah. They're like this huge
a monolith.
thing.
Yes,
yeah. And then since then, I've been invited to other Persian TV shows and stuff, but I kind of just like reject them all because it's not really my vibe. And I know, and like just watching these shows, I'm like, wow, that's really cringe and really fake. Because like some of the people on that get invited to the shows, I know. Like it's funny when, and I'm sure you can attest to this because it's probably happened to you. You'll see a celebrity on a show and you'll know the truth of who they actually are, but then you see what they're projecting on TV and you're like, oh, this is gross. So yeah,
I mean, it's sort of the business though,
it is I don't judge, like that's the hustle, but like at the same time it's not me. I physically can't be anything other than myself. Like I can't.
So if some big Iranian network comes to you and says, here you're working on a one-woman show, which I'm going to ask you about it later in the interview, but you know what? We're willing to give you 32 episodes, full funding, let's do this, and pay you a shitload of money. We just need you to soften the edges a little bit.
I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it?
No. I don't do anything for monetary gain. If it's not true to who I am, and if they want to censor me in any way, I can't. I defy. My brain just goes.
And you don't care what others think.
Yeah.
It's okay. This is part of what people really like about you, I guess.
Well, see, they either really like it or they're like, they hate it because they're like, Sahar kheli porroe. Like Sahar is unhinged and crazy and rude and da-da-da. And and I'm honestly, if you actually listen to stuff I say, I'm never rude. People take what I say and they twist it because of their own negative mindset, you know?
Again, I also think, I dare say, if you were doing a non-Iranian related project, a podcast, or I think to a large extent what you do would be considered just critical thinking. I mean, it would be considered good. I mean, it's like, this is what people, film critics do this, or and
we don't have in our critics, culture, though. We don't have any.
It's like, there's inherently nothing wrong with you saying, here's what I think the dysfunction is with Radio Javan, this huge platform that is really great for a lot of artists, and some others might find it challenging. The fact that people would be afraid to have that kind of conversation or blacklist you because you might say those things is really about our culture, isn't it?
Yeah. Or even, Persia's Got Talent.
Yes.
That show.
Yes.
I did reviews where I would watch, and I put them on YouTube.
You said something bad about Persia. Kidding.
Well, and it's funny because it's like, I'm sure you remember Video on Trial back in the day,
of course, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Or just any show where reaction shows. I mean, there's so many.
Although that was comedy, that was
for sure. Yeah, so was mine. I'm never like disrespectful or rude.
Okay,
yeah, no. It's just my reaction in the moment, and I'm generally a funny person, so my reactions are going to be funny or comedic. And so I did reaction to those, and I got into trouble with like so many people because they were like, I can't believe you said that, or that's so disrespectful. And I'm like, I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying like funny comedic shit. You're just taking it in a negative way because you choose to do that.
Yeah, this is a whole new has been something that I've learned over the last couple of years doing Roqe too, because every once in a while somebody will say something, if not me, one of our other people on the show will say something, and it'll cause all these issues. I noticed that this person didn't like me, and it's like they said something incredibly benign, and it is this this highly sensitive cultural barrier that if you cross it, and it's interesting when you say we don't really have critics. We
don't.
I've never really thought about that.
We don't have a single person who critiques stuff because we can't handle it. You say one thing, and because people care about what other people think so much. But if you kind of have that mindset that I was saying before, where if you say you don't like my jacket, that's cool. That's your opinion. You're allowed to have that opinion.
Right.
I should be strong enough to understand that it's not personal. You just might not like red blazers, whatever. Like has nothing.
By the way, I like the jacket.
Well, you know what I mean? Like it's doesn't matter. As long as I like the jacket, it shouldn't really matter what you think. And that's why we don't have critics.
Yeah.
I mean, there's me, but yeah, I get a lot of hate.
Yeah.
A lot of love. But
how does and how do these emotions, these Manichaean love-hate emotions express themselves? When you say I got into a lot of shit, what does that actually mean? Just people saying nasty things on social media? Or
no, not people. It's more people within the industry. Again, I'll be passed up for certain projects. I'll be excluded.
But that you don't want those projects. I mean,
I don't exactly. But
you would have to be somebody who isn't yourself
for sure. But the problem is that a lot of times those people who are part of those projects are kind of like the gatekeepers of Iranian Western.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Content.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
If that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
You know, the fact that I said Sahar Golshani and you corrected me is actually germane to a question I wanted to ask you, because you actually believe, now you are critical of Iranians, but you're also critical of non-Iranians in terms of the way they interact with us. Mm-hmm. And one thing you believe is that non-Iranians should learn how to say our names correctly,
yes,
for example.
Yes.
Why is that so important to you?
I feel like if they can say, Timothy Chalamet and Daenerys Targaryen, they can learn how to say Sahar and not Sahar,
So true.
It's not that hard. And it's our fault. I don't even put it on them. It's our fault for not correcting them and not having the confidence to correct them. And I think, our parents, when they were immigrants, they probably didn't have that confidence to be like, oh, actually it's, Gila, not Jila,
Right.
They didn't have the confidence. So they were like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever you say. Because they were just trying to survive. They weren't trying to live.
Yes.
Now we're living. So we need to kind of reverse that and rewind and fix it.
Yes. So you actually call people out when they get your name wrong.
Of course.
And you don't use a Starbucks name, or you do?
I do.
You do.
Who cares about Starbucks? Yeah.
What is the Starbucks name?
Sarah. It's just easy. Sarah.
So you'll stop it. The barista can say whatever they want, but in real society.
Yeah.
And do you feel like when you say it's our fault, it is a strange thing, isn't it? Where we, on the one hand, there's this superiority complex. Mm-hmm. We invented everything. Mm-hmm. It all comes from us. We're the dominant culture, Sirus, whatever, And on the other hand, there's this deference to Western society. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but
no, it's true.
When sometimes at cultural events, I don't know if this happened in Vancouver or happens in LA or something, but I can tell you in Toronto, if there is like a local counselor, somebody who's like meaningless, quite frankly, who is somehow willing to turn up, they'll put this guy on stage.
Oh my God, yeah.
They'll be like, now we have the counselor for beaches, Scarborough.
And he'll
Mike
come up and be like,
Smith. Mike Smith.
Mubarak.
Exactly. And he'll come up and he'll make some joke about, hey, I learned that, it's exactly.
That his secretary told him to say 5 minutes before.
100%. He'll come up and say, hello everybody, and no ruse, P-ruse.
Yeah,
and everybody the crowd goes crazy. And I've never understood why we have to be so deferential. It's like, and there's no quid pro quo. It's like get something from these people, They don't just let them on the stage. But it's like it really is this version of they like us. Mm-hmm. They like us so good. So it's
because we put khariji or I don't know, white people.
Khariji is weird because we're the Iranians are. I always laugh when Iranians say, Khariji.
No, it's true though. Anyone who's not Iranian is a Khariji, right? Because they're an outsider.
But it means foreigner, right?
Yeah, so they would be.
Well, to call a Canadian in Canada foreigner.
Well, whatever. Those people, we put them on
a
pedestal because even in Iran, anything that's Khariji is automatically, oh my God, so much better quality, so much better. And then when they move here, it's like, oh, again, anything Khariji must be better. But it's like, no, it's really not.
But it's not all things Khariji, is it? I mean, it depends on.
I think so.
Well, is it Khariji if you're talking about Bangladesh?
No, I mean like white.
Khariji
Western,
means white.
Yeah,
white.
White. Yeah. White. Canadian American. Like we put it on a pedestal for sure.
So, we've been talking about Persian parents and stuff. I want to, first of all, you grew up religious, right?
Yes.
Like Muslim.
Baha'i.
Baha'i. Oh, okay. That's right. Baha'i.
I would fast, pray every day, like fully religious.
And what happened to that? When did you give that up?
I think the older I got, the more hypocrisy I saw, and the more I realized that religion divides more than it brings people together. I also did shrooms, and like I was like, whoa, my mind is open, and like I just realized a lot of things, and I just research and I just came to the realization that I don't know, it wasn't for me. I respect people who decide to believe in a religion, but it's not for me. And I came to this conclusion that I feel like all religions are cults. Oh. But
you respect people who...
Oh, no, for sure. It's just...
are part of the cults?
Here's my theory. I feel like all the religions that are, like the big religions, are from a long time ago. And that's when people didn't have as much access to information like they do now. So if a religion was going to start right now, all people would have to do is go on Google and research the guy a little bit, and they'd be like, okay, well, that's a cult. You know what I mean? Back then, there was no Google. So if someone, like, you know, like said 2 or 3 nice things, it was like, wow, right. Fucking Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, so that's my theory. But again, respect to anyone who believes in religion, because I used to be a religious person. Most of my family are still in that. But that's my theory. I just be a good person. That's it.
So if only the traditional religions had been created post Google, you think that there'd be more fact checking?
Definitely. There was no fact checking back then. You know what I mean? Someone could come and be like, yeah, God told me this, and they'd be like, wow, really? For sure.
Parenthetically, I must share with you that I just learned. I feel like an idiot, but I just learned. Do you know what the name of Jesus and Moses is in Farsi, in Persian?
Yeah, isn't it like Yahoo or something?
No, it's so good.
Masih, Hazrat Masih?
No. Ready?
Oh, there's like another.
Well, their names are Isa
and
Musa.
Oh, okay, yeah. Isa.
I mean, I don't know why I find that so funny. Isa and Musa. I was like, are you serious?
Sounds like a rap group.
It sounds like a buddy comedy, you know, like, or the start of a joke. Or Isa and Musa walk into a bar.
Yeah,
I mean, really? These are their names? I don't know why I didn't know. I mean, I guess I've always heard Hob Jesus Raftebud. You know, I never heard
Hazrat
Masih. Or something,
Musa.
or the official name, like Peygamber, the prophet, you know, whatever. But but Isa and Musa, I just think is like, it's like a sketch on, you know,
that's funny.
It's like an SNL, you know.
Are you religious?
No. But I mean, with the billing of Isa and Musa, I'm willing to follow the two of them to the end of the world. No, I mean, I grew up, we were a Muslim family, but
not like practicing. Like most Iranians. They're like Muslim by name.
Yeah. I mean, actually, to be honest, politically, I was very, very anti-religion for in my teens and in my early 20s. And then I started to realize that there's a lot of people doing really great things in the name of their religion, you know.
For sure.
And so who am I to go, I can't believe you're building a house for someone, you know.
Oh, you were one of those.
Well, I was just really against organized religion because I thought it was the thing that started all the wars, and you know.
Right.
But you know, then you start to realize there's people doing whether it's even in Iran, we're everywhere, you know. I mean, it's not only bad, right?
Yeah.
So let me get into something, which is this on Unfiltered, your podcast. You did an episode about 3 or 4 months ago called "My Dark Past," and it is it's not just unfiltered; it's very raw, and it is a telling of your childhood and a very, very difficult situation that you went through, especially with your father. I have to say, before even getting into this, that I recommend it's difficult, and trigger warnings, etc. But I do think people should listen to this. It is incredibly powerful. I texted you, I think, after it and said, I mean, it is, as a person who's been in media and sort of broadcasting and all that for years, I think it is a really outstanding just piece of audio of somebody being so authentic and real. There's no moment where I feel like you've got an agenda or you're sort of embellishing anything. I mean, it's just you telling your story. So if it's okay, I want to ask you a bit about that.
Of course. Can I just say first, that's the best compliment I could ever hear from anyone, is that I'm authentic and that I'm just being real. I love hearing that. I love that.
Okay. Well, you deserve that.
Thank
Now,
you.
now you're, I don't even know. I mean, you're in your 20s or in your 30s or something, something like that.
How old do you think I am?
Well, you don't care what people think. So, I mean, what age cohort are you in?
I'm 30.
You're 30.
I'm
You're
19,
30.
Yeah,
All right.
1990.
So you went through 29 years of your life or 30 years of your life not publicly telling this story the way you have told it.
Yeah.
So first of all, what inspired you to lay this all out there the way you did?
I think it's just being a social media personality for the past, I don't even know, maybe like 10 years, and having, a following who's been following me for all those 10 years. I realized that there's a lot of wrong assumptions about me. And I realized that a lot of people think that I'm some like rich girl who grew up in Canada with like rich parents and has had everything perfect. And I was like, I need to set the record straight and let people know that that's not the case. And then also, again, social media, just in general, everyone's just showing their perfect moments. Everyone's always just curating like this perfection and giving off this false narrative of their lives, and it's so bad for the younger generation because they are striving to attain something that isn't even real. So I thought, how can I kind of reverse that? And I have that mindset with everything that I do. That's why I'm always like, I want to be unfiltered, I want to be raw, I want to be authentic, because there's so much fakeness. So I was like, you know what, I realize that this is a topic that no one's talked about. Getting abused by someone in your family and going through all this crazy and hard shit, essentially. I need to talk about it because there's probably a lot of other girls or guys or whatever gender that are going through this but don't have someone that can inspire them to talk about it. Because again, in our culture, we don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about, abuse. We don't talk about any of this kind of stuff.
Child abuse and emotional terrorism
Exactly.
that your father presided over. And when you recorded that, did you know exactly what you were going to say?
I never know. I just turn it on.
It sounds very visceral. I mean, there's moments where you even stop speaking because it's overwhelming you a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, can you talk a bit about what it was like growing up with your dad? I mean,
it's funny because now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, what an asshole. But like, it was hard. He was very physically abusive towards me and my mother. There was points where he actually went to jail a couple of times because of the stuff that he would do to us. And it just made me not have as much confidence when I was a kid. And I think one of the reasons why I have this like crazy, I don't give a fuck, boss bitch attitude now is because of that. I don't know if I'm trying to like overcompensate maybe for the confidence that I didn't have when I was a kid. I don't really know, but it was tough. It was tough growing up.
First of all, he left you guys, right?
Yes.
He left you.
Well, my parents got divorced when I was 10.
Didn't he leave before that once? And
He did. But it would just, my mom would be like, oh no, well, like, typical Persian mindset where it's like, no, he's the father of my children. Like, let me just try and fix things. And then my mom's family was, divorce is just such a taboo thing. It's like, no, like, why would you want to get divorced? Ruin the family. So she really tried, but it just didn't work because he was just not a good person. And he had a lot of internal demons, I guess, that he was dealing with, because his father was also pretty much the same characteristics, same mental state. So it kind of trickled down to him. And
after the divorce, he doesn't pay. He's supposed to pay child support. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, he doesn't do that. Was just, just emotionally, the physical abuse might have stopped, but the emotional abuse just continued because, and I guess this happens to a lot of kids whose parents divorce. The parents are at it with each other. So then what my dad was doing was like doing things on purpose to us to piss my mom off, not realizing that it's detrimental to our mental health and, our well-being. So that happens a lot in a lot of divorces. I mean, this definitely wasn't the only case where parents use the kids as kind of like a tool to get at each other. So that happened a lot. And then as I got older, I just realized that I didn't want to have contact with him anymore because, the older you get, the kind of more knowledge you have, the more self-aware you become. And you're like, this is not serving me any good. And so I just cut all ties and haven't talked to him for a long time. Yeah.
And how does that feel?
It's weird because now that I'm older, I've kind of started thinking maybe I should confront him and, have a face-to-face talk with him just to understand his mindset. Like, why did you do those things? What was your mental state in at that moment?
Over a period of years.
Yeah. Like, what was going on with you? Why did you do these things? And then after that, just be like, do you understand what your actions did? Because, obviously he doesn't know, the full scope of, how I was feeling or how it affected me. So I want him to know. I want him to understand all these things.
We really don't talk that much about what happens in Persian families and with the way kids are treated in our family. I guess it's considered something that we're not supposed to talk about.
Exactly. It's one of those topics.
So what kind of response did you get when you put that out there?
Oh my God, it was crazy. So many girls were messaging me and sharing their stories with me, which I'm so thankful for. And I'm so happy that, they trusted me enough to share their deepest, darkest secrets. But just reading all of them too was just so heavy. Yeah. So I had to like step aside every, now and then just to be like, okay, like I need a break. And then I was like, wow, how do psychologists do it? Because it's crazy, like to take on that much baggage from other people. But at the same time, I'm kind of used to it too, because I have, it's this weird thing that I have. And I asked my friend about it. We were actually talking about this the other day. I was like, I don't get why sometimes I'll meet someone for the first time and then within an hour we're in a corner and they're telling me like their life story and like they're just telling me everything. And she's like, you know what, Sai? It's because you make it okay to have problems. You're so like just real and you're just so like normal about it and you're so upfront and you don't hide anything that other people feel comfortable sharing their problems with you because you know that they know that you won't judge them. I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense. That's true.
I mean, it's hard for me to think that anybody would listen to that and take issue. But did you get any response from people saying, in Persian families, we shouldn't talk about this? Maybe your parents had reasons for the way your dad had to treat his kids, or
No, the only messages I got that I was just like was, but he is your dad.
Oh.
And I'm like,
meaning what, do you think?
just oh no, like
you're supposed to forgive him.
You should forgive him. Like you should talk to him. He's your dad. Hachi boshe babate. And I'm like, no, like if you're not an actual father, if you don't, what constitutes being a father? Put that checklist out. My dad checked off none of those things, so he's not a father. You can't use that excuse. So those were the only, I would say, negative messages I got. Everything else was super positive, and people were really happy.
It went viral too. I mean, it was a very
that
big episode for you. Kind of put you on the map for some people.
Yeah.
Did you tell your mom that you were going to do that beforehand?
No, I don't even think she listens to my podcast.
But she didn't. She don't know.
I don't even think she knows.
Okay. Really?
Yeah. I don't think she would mind though. My mom's very West Coast hippie, like peace, love kind of thing. She'd
be okay with it.
Yeah,
and I'm guessing that she's not in touch with your dad then.
No, not at all. Yeah. And plus, like, anytime I do crazy stuff, like, she just has this thing. She's like, Sahar like,
well, this is a pretty big one, talking about the family legacy. And what about extended family? Do people follow you? Like, do you have family in Iran that are aware of your...
I have, like, second cousins, but, like, I've never talked to them. One of the reasons why people always ask me why you've never been to Iran, one of the reasons why is because everyone's here. I literally don't have anyone in Iran. Usually people go back to Iran to visit a grandma, an uncle, an aunt, but everyone's here. So that's kind of why I've never been.
Do you want to go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's
too.
like my dream to go. I always tell people, I'm like, I can't even in my head comprehend that there's a place on this planet where everyone around you is Iranian and they're speaking Farsi. Like, I can't even imagine that. That's why when I go to like things like Tirgan or I go to like Super Khorak, I'm like, whoa, like, is this this what it feels like?
I know. I have the exact same feeling that it would be crazy. Everywhere you're going, people would be, and you'd be the person who doesn't speak, it'd be like or isn't as adept with the culture. I wonder if it would feel, I guess the big question for me, I mean, I was there once when I was like, they took me there, I was 5, but it doesn't really count. Yeah. And, and once when I was 2, but I always wonder if it'll feel like if I would land there and go, wow, I'm home, on some level, or whether
I think it would, especially I'm Turk, right? So I feel like if I go to Tabriz one day, I will literally have a heart attack from happiness. 'Cause it's just like, my people.
Don't set up expectations though, because you might go there and get sorely disappointed. It's happened.
There's
it's happened
no way.
where
There's
people
no
are
possible
disappointed.
Way. No, I refuse.
You're very you're a very strong person, and you're a strong person.
Yeah. Very
self-aware. Do you think that everything you went through with your dad and all of that is part of the reason why you've built this armor?
I think that it's part of it for sure. But again, like since I was a kid, I was always like this kind of. I was very much danced to the beat of my own drum all the time. So yeah, it's a little combination of the two.
Have you been through counseling in terms of what happened?
I have a therapist.
You have a therapist,
yes,
okay.
Yes. I think everyone has to have a therapist.
I believe that as well.
Yeah, if you don't have a therapist,
I was asking you gingerly because those who've never had therapy, still, especially Persians,
oh my God.
And there's a prominent Persian who I recently said, by the way, I think you should see a therapist.
Yeah.
And she got so upset at me, as if I was saying, oh, you think I'm damaged? And I'm like, well, if you're damaged, then I've been damaged for the last 30 years because I've been seeing a therapist I mean, that's I certainly think it's a prerequisite, but if I say you get triggered by things, you're going to say, no, I'm a strong person. I don't get triggered, right? I'm guessing. Yeah. See? But, when you were talking about your dad and, that your childhood and what I call terrorism, you were breaking down in that. But
if you pay attention, I break down at the points where I'm talking about my mom because I know that she's not strong. And that's what makes me break down because I'm like, oh, she's not as strong as I am. So she took a lot of she took a bigger hit on her mental health. If you go back and listen,
That's
it's just
interesting.
those parts.
I will. Do you? I mean, on some level, do you worry that there's going to be some like you when you hit 50 or something and you go, oh my God, and freak out because of things you've been through?
No.
All right. Well, I hope that doesn't happen.
I hope so. I mean,
I'm not trying to will it to happen. I'm so happy that you're as. I'm actually jealous that you're as strong as you are. It's very powerful to, like, yourself.
yeah.
You know yourself, and that's why you're able to say things about things.
Yeah.
And then you get into some trouble, but you're not doing them, even whether it's Radio Javon or Persian Families, you're not saying these things in a malevolent way.
Exactly.
You're not saying it to attack someone.
Exactly.
You're just being...
Have you seen Whiplash, the
Of
movie?
course, yeah.
Okay, I'm like the
drummer?
the
teacher?
conductor, yes.
Oh.
Or like, I'm giving you tough love because I want you to be the best. Like, if Iranians are the best, then okay, let's coach you into being the best. Like, if that's what you want to do. Because right now you're not the best, like, in any way. So that's how I deal with things that I critique.
Where does being a clothing designer fit into all this?
I know, right? So when I first started getting really big on Instagram and social media, I noticed that a lot of people, they'll do merch. And it's just like so cringe because they'll put like their name and like it's just so narcissistic.
Settle down. It's a way to make supplement income that a lot of artists and others don't have in other ways.
That's fine, but be creative about it. Don't just put your name on something and be like, wear my t-shirt with my name. Like, that's so self-centered. So I was
what about an owl? Is an owl okay?
Drake.
Is Drake all right?
Yeah, because he literally is like representing a city and whatever. Like, it's not his face. You know what I mean? And then, so I was thinking, how can I, because I don't, on my social media, I never do ads. I never take money to talk about something. And if you want me to talk about something and if I truly believe in it, I'll do it for free because if you win, I win.
Why don't you take money?
I just don't believe in taking money to promote something that I don't genuinely believe in. If I believe in it and you're like, you have a good pitch, sure. But it's never happened. Usually
okay, so there is if it's a product that you like,
if I will actually use it
and they give you money, you'll take it.
Right. Or like recently I did the only kind of paid promotion, but I did it on my own terms. So there's this like dating app called Shaytun. And they contacted me. It's like a Persian dating app. It's like Persian
Clearly,
Tinder.
yes.
Yeah. They were like, can you do a promo for us? And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to use that app. Okay. But what I will do to promote it is I'll go through your app and I'll rate your guys out of 1 to 5. So I did that.
How dare you?
I know.
Yeah.
And in the end, they made me censor.
Were there
the
any
guys'
5s?
faces. Oh, there was 1 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was good. Wow, how did we even get to this?
You were talking about not taking money,
right?
Except from Shaytun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was the only time I did like an ad, if you can call it an ad.
So wait, they paid you?
Yeah.
To rate the men on Shaytun?
Yes, I did a whole YouTube video. It's quite funny. But again, at the end, they made me censor it because they were like, I don't think it's okay to have their faces, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So yeah, I don't do ads, and I was like, how can I make some sort of money off of?
Yeah.
So you know what?
It's a job. I mean, look, I lament the fact that social media has become seen as a business for so many that it governs what the discourse, right? But I mean, you're creating content.
Yeah.
The content, I believe, should be worth something. In the absence of copyright or publishing royalties for Instagram, at least, you can sort of get that on YouTube and maybe Spotify. There's some streaming money and things like that. But I mean, if you were to monetize it do you get offers from companies to advertise or?
Not really, no.
People are scared.
Honestly, they are. Honestly.
They're like, what if she puts me on an episode where she's ranting about something?
And it's funny because I did a podcast with Erfan and his podcast just lately, and Yaya, his co-host, was saying you've kind of been known as this purveyor of like what is good and what is, you know, hip within the Persian community. And he's like, yeah, I think a lot of people are scared of you, and you know, you have kind of like a if Sahar approves it, you know, if it's is it Sahar approved? But going back to chalads, actually, now that I think of it, I never even thought about the monetary gain. It was kind of just like, hey, and it started with hats. I was like, hey, I see all these other Persian designers that are killing it, amazing, but none of them are really stuff that resonates me who grew up here. Where's that brand that is more like streetwear, more young, you know, like the younger generation kind of resonates with it, and I resonate with it. And it literally just started with 3 or 4 hats that I made for myself. And then I just posted on Instagram, and then people were like, oh my God, I want this. And I was like, hey, I think I got something here. So then it just kind of kept on expanding. And then I did t-shirts, jean jackets, and the list keeps on going on. And it's done really well. And I think it's done really well because there's been no other competition, you know? We're kind of the only Iranian streetwear brand that has our type of designs. Yeah, because everything else out there is very like classy, for lack of better terms, and just like very like Persian calligraphy and very, very Persian. But ours is more like, for example, we have a sweatshirt that's Kola Garmezi. You know that character?
Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we did him, but what if he was...
How do you know him?
Because I watched his movies when I was a kid.
But how did you... In Vancouver?
Yeah.
See, that's so weird to me. See, I've only learned those things from people like Shaya telling me what, you know, back in Iran. Yeah.
That was the first Persian movie I ever saw in theaters. They brought it to Vancouver and my mom took us. And I was like, wow. I actually have his dolls in my house. I'm obsessed. Anyway, so we did a shirt with him and his sidekick, Pesar Khale, but reimagined as SoundCloud rappers. So they have like face tats and he's wearing like a Gucci jumpsuit. Right. So it's very like taking Iranian stuff but giving it like a modern streetwear twist. Or we'll have like a hat that says, you know, what the fuck. Or we'll have a t-shirt that has Buddha on it and then it says Goh Nabosh. You know, Buddha. Like, yeah, stuff like just weird stuff like that. That's cool.
Where do you, and by the way, let's do a product placement right now. Where can people find your merch, your material, your clothing?
Our website, www.chaladsdesign.com.
Yeah, Chalads, it's a weird one. It's CHALADZ, right?
Yes.
Chalads. I didn't even know how to say it.
Yeah. No, do you want to know where the name came from?
Please.
Okay, so when we wanted to go smoke weed...
Is this when you were not becoming a Baha'i anymore, or is that the mushrooms? So much of your decisions in life have been governed by what drug you've done.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Honestly. Yeah. So Chalads was our like nickname or code word for going to smoke weed. And one day when we had Chalads...
You just made it up?
Yeah, it was just like a word. We were whatever. Let's go Chalads, man. So one day when we had chalads, that's when we thought of it.
It's a verb too.
Sure.
Yeah, to chalas. Yeah, to chalads.
Yeah, to chalads. We just thought of it. We were like, hey, we should make clothing. And then we did. And we were like, what should we call it? Chalads.
It's great.
There you go.
It's great. It's a great inside joke. No longer. Now everyone knows the story behind.
Also, because our designs, you need a sick mind. So we were like, okay, it makes sense.
You should sell some weed along with it to really, for people.
I mean, it's legal now. I could.
Yeah, you could, right?
Saffron infused weed.
Speaking of which, that's right. Yeah. Do we have that?
I don't know. Is that possible?
That's what you should do. That Persian infused weed.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Where do you want to take all of this? I mean, what's the what's the Sahar Golshani? It's exhausting. Where's the what is the teenage girl dream of where you want to take all of what you do?
So I did stand up a couple times, and I realized that it wasn't for me. Because you need to know Sahar to find Sahar, to understand Sahar, if that kind of makes sense. Because, see, the first stand-up show I did, the audience knew me. They loved it. It was awesome. And then I started doing other gigs where I was, flown out to other places in America to do these, like, banquet gala kind of things. And, I have this joke where I'm like, yeah, it's really cool how my Farsi is really good. I'm so glad that I'm not like salam man halam khubet, like with like kids like that. And it's funny how kids who grow up here can't say kh correctly. So my cousin one time was like, I went up to him and I'm like, Arya rafti doktor chi shod? And he's like, raftam doktor kun dadam. And then for a girl to say that, people were like, what the fuck? And it's so bad because I feel like in stand-up, all the stand-up comedians, Iranians, they're all men. There's no girl ones.
There's a Melissa Shoshahi. There's a couple of up-and-comers, but not really.
Yeah,
the big names
really.
Are all
they're all men, and even the girls, they're not really doing a lot of Iranian content because they know that they're going to be hit with that negative backlash because you
mean you think that Max Amini could make that joke and everybody would laugh?
Of course.
Right.
Of course, because
but you couldn't.
I'll tell you later. But anyways, off the record.
It's not so unfiltered.
Yeah.
Well, filtered all of a sudden.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, he definitely could. I've had experiences where I've heard him say a joke and okay, you know what, fuck it, I opened for Max Amini once,
okay, and
I said this joke and
that one,
yes, and he actually
joke?
Then he actually told me later, he was like, and I swear a lot, like I swear a lot in my sets because that's just, I don't know who I am, that's how I talk. And a lot of Iranians don't understand that like having a potty mouth is not the same as being like a rude person, or not, or yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you can say fuck, but like, or this is how I say it to some people. I'm like, politicians don't swear. Are they good people? Think of it that way. So anyways, I opened for him. During his set, he was making all these jokes about hookers and his dick and dudul tala and stuff like that, and no one said anything. But for me, it's saying, swearing and stuff. He later told me, he was like, I got so many emails of people being like, what the hell, like complaining and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is not for me, maybe. So going back to your question, I'm working on,
by the way, that wasn't a bad story about Max Amini. He told you what the audience was saying. Or is this something you're leaving out? Okay, go ahead.
Anyways.
Yeah.
I don't want to get further blacklisted.
but the damage is done, honey. No, but what's interesting is, I wonder. I think it's again the keeping up appearances thing, because Persians do swear.
Yeah.
And Persian women swear.
Yeah.
Everybody swears, right? But it's like something about Yani Rafti to you on the stage.
But it's a girl though.
At a gala.
Girl.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if that's the
being a girl.
Big difference.
Yes. Dude, there's so much misogyny.
Yeah.
So much. Like we think we've come a long way, but we've barely even hit the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, I realize that's not maybe for me, just because there's no way I can change it. It's not going to change overnight, and I don't have that time to wait and, advocate for that. But I was like, instead, I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm going to write my own show and tour with that instead.
So what is our status on the one woman show?
It's still in writing. It's still in the first stages of it. But it's going to be different because I always joke to my friends. I say my mom was the original YouTube vlogger. I have an upwards of 50, 60 VHS tapes of my entire childhood. And so what I've done is it's kind of going to be like interactive, where it's like a TED talk, I guess you could say, where it's going to be very visual. So most comedians go up there and they're just alone with a microphone. I'm going to be alone with a microphone, but with also a screen. So if I make a joke, I can also reference to that exact moment of my life. And the whole show is called Growing Up in Kharij. And it kind of, you know, goes throughout all the things that I did when I was a kid and how I got to where I am now, with all the visual proof.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, it is a version of stand-up. It's just
it is.
You're doing, you know, because I was thinking, I think you're wrong about the stand-up thing. I think
No.
but you have a big following. So I think if you went and did your own show, maybe at a small comedy club to begin with, but if in LA, in Vancouver, in the hot spots where the Persians are, in DC.
That's what I'm saying. It would have to be my own show.
Yeah, and your audience comes and they know what they're expecting.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, that's like an indie band, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, an indie band opens up for the Eagles and everybody goes, go to hell, we hate you. You know, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
So you got to just find your people.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I can't be like a stand-up comedian, because part of being a stand-up comedian is going to different, you know, gigs and reading the crowd and kind of playing to that crowd. I can't play
Open
to any
mic
crowd.
Stuff.
I need to play to my crowd, because that's the only thing I know how to do.
You're so easy to talk to.
Thanks.
You are, what's the word? How about unfiltered? No. It really is I really appreciate you coming on the program. Especially now that I know that there's all these other programs you won't go on because they'll make you jump through hoops or something. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the time you've given us and your candor. It means a lot. Thank you for doing this, and I hope you come back.
I hope you invite me back.
100%. 100%. But you know, we got some feedback from the audience that you need to swear less.
Oh, yeah? Oh, oops. Fuck them. No, but joking. I love you guys, but also...
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Sahar Golshani, an Iranian-Canadian comedian, social commentator. Her podcast, which you must check out, is called Unfiltered. Sahar Golshani joined us live in the Roqe Studio today. Captain Reza, Groovy Cheyenne, Kyan, of course, knocking things over as you walk back in. How about that?
Wow.
I really, you guys were listening, right? Across the,
of course,
on the other side. Yeah, I loved that. I really enjoyed talking to her.
Amazing.
What a journey that interview was. Amazing. From having some fun. First of all, getting schooled on her name, Golshani. To I mean, her insights. It was a lot of fun. And then I mean, I really appreciate the honesty, talking about her family, talking about some really serious issues. What a true pleasure it was to have her here.
Yeah.
Such a balanced and strong woman she is. Like, honestly, what the things that she's been through, and she's been able to channel all of that and find humor in everything.
Yeah,
it's incredible. It's incredible.
Right.
I really admire people like her. I really admire people like her.
I don't think I know. I've never met any Iranian female for sure that is as Roqe as her, because I like her. I always feel like I always have to hold back, like
as Roqe as her.
Khanomi, you know, like you have for nagu zishte, like you have to be a proper lady, so to speak.
Right.
You guys just addressed everything wrong with our culture in the last hour or so. From,
we did it.
From caring too much to family issues. And by the way, I love how you mentioned, one of our team members, you know, has made some comments, and they're usually benign. I could
neither confirm nor deny who I was talking about, but
It's so true. Like you can never, like no matter what you say, you'll always offend.
I loved
someone.
that. I loved that part where we were talking about, the fact that there's no culture of criticism.
Right.
I mean, it should be okay
Yeah.
to constructively criticize
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
But even on an interpersonal level, I've
Yeah.
found with fellow Iranians that if you and even when the person's like protesting, no, please tell me what was it, and you go, okay, well, I think that, then they never speak to you again.
Right,
I mean,
they
it's
take
like
it personally.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
full-on
That's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing. I never quite could put my finger on it. I didn't realize it till you guys brought it up. I was like, you're so fucking right. Like,
Yeah.
why is it that we can't, you have to hold back
Yeah.
always. You have to be careful and
Yeah, and
tiptoe.
it's shy. Like, there's no. I mean, your dad worked in film and stuff. There's really no such thing as like film criticism, or
Actually, yes, there is some film critics in Iran, but always they are fighting with. I mean, we don't have a tolerance to listen to each other.
yeah.
We don't have it.
Yeah,
How did, tell me culturally, how did we become that way? Not we, but how did Persians become this way?
everyone with the exception of you and I, Kyan.
I mean, I care a little bit, but
Well, there's a myriad reasons. I mean, she brought up some of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we discussed, everything from the superiority complex to the inferiority
We are the
complex. I
best.
mean, when you're this shoot for this expectation of perfection. I mean, you see it quite frankly, in the way Iranians on the outside need to, fix their bodies or do whatever we need to do to attain some unachievable goal of perfection and beauty. And it's like a disease we have, that
Why are you looking at
infects
me?
every part of us. You, of
I'll
course,
have you know, I am natural.
You are natural, right?
Yes. Yeah, yes. Well, you look.
Is
Yes. Yes, I am.
Did you amal your nose? You did, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not
You
just
and
saying
Reza.
this. I'm not just saying. I had a broken nose. I'm serious. I am serious. I have two. No. Seriously, I have two.
We've heard this before.
No. This is true.
94% of women in Iran have a nose job, and all of them had a broken nose.
But no, let me tell you, I have two brothers, and since I was a child, I was like their experiment. And I remember vividly, my older brother was like, "Hey, Kyan, can I try?" I was like, "Okay," adoringly. He punched me in the nose.
my
So I've had a broken nose.
And it
since I
gave
was,
you
like, 6 years old.
occasion to have surgery and have a perfect
Yes,
nose. Yeah.
well, yeah.
No, you and Reza with your nose surgery.
I never had a nose job. I don't understand.
All right, no
He's
problem.
lying.
When
He's
are you
so
going to come
lying.
out of the closet on that?
Oh my god.
You have had a
That's
nose
crazy.
job,
Yeah.
and it's
Swear to
very.
God, I never did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
never
other
did.
than the nose, the fixing of the nose, I am natural.
Right.
I'll have everybody know.
I thought both are natural, but
Mine is natural.
No,
Jian
no.
is making stuff up.
No, it's not. It's
swear
not.
to God, it's
We've
I'll
talked
show
about
Shia,
this.
I'll show you. My nose was literally just crooked from being broken.
But Shia and I, the good thing about us, Shia, is that no one would look at us and think we've had a nose job.
that's right.
That's the good. It's the good news. But the bad news is they look at us and go, maybe you should get a nose job. Yeah.
That's right.
آخه این چیه این دماغ رو یه کمی جلوی خودت بگی.
عزیزم بد نیست که عملی بکنی.
I know. And I love how Iranians don't trust the surgeons in the West. Like, you have to fly back to Iran to get the nose job,
Well, that's what I did. My mom forced me.
Is that what you did?
My mom
You had it
forced
done
me
in
to
Iran?
get it done.
Everything's her mom forced her.
I
You know what I'm
swear to
saying?
God.
So you guys flew. You
I
were
was
like,
against-
we're booking a flight.
No, it
for you.
wasn't. We didn't fly just to get a nose job. It was like a summer vacation, and my mom, my mom, my aunts, my whole life, they're like, "Azizam bad neist," It's like a rite of passage.
It is.
And,
It is.
and I was so against it. She was like, "Just go to the appointment," and I did. And the doctor did X-rays. Like, "Azizam, your nose is broken." I was like, "Shit, no wonder."
No, listen. You're absolutely right. The nose thing, we can't even consider that whether you're natural or not. Otherwise, because that's a pass.
Right.
Everybody,
That's a given.
that's something we do.
Yeah.
But
That's crazy. That's crazy. The people
yeah,
accuse me of getting getting a nose job.
It's
insane.
Reza, you haven't.
I never had a nose job.
Yeah, okay.
خودش رو لوس می‌کنی.
خیلی خودش رو لوس می‌کنی.
Fine. So back to Sahar. She's great. I commend her for her work, and I wish there was more like her. Honestly,
Now,
we
you're
need
a woman in your 30s, in your early 30s. Did what she was, I mean, I would imagine, I mean, I love listening to her as well, but I imagine what she does in terms of her podcast, in terms of the kind of material, the content she puts out there, really speaks to people.
100%.
That's
to
true,
me
right?
personally, I don't know about anybody else,
Yeah.
but I can relate in the sense that I'm an Iranian girl that grew up in the West, and like exactly what she said. When in the beginning, I was more so embarrassed of the culture. Like I was like, oh, ew, fob. I don't want to, associate with this. I think for a lot of my life, I would say I was like half Spanish or something, just to not be Persian.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got older that I just suddenly realized, oh wow, there's beautiful art, there's beautiful history, all this stuff. So I try to always focus on the positive and not kind of like what Sahar was saying. It's better to do that because yes, there is a lot of negative in the
listen,
culture.
I'll tell you, it's really nice to have a guest on the show who you can say something nice about. It's the first time Kyon's liked something.
Oh, listen, I've learned my lesson.
I found the guest interesting. Kyan, this is a medical doctor who's who invented a cure for. Well, what they've done is interesting. I personally didn't have high expectations when Dr. Adahali first was pitched, but
You're so right. I'll say the most benign thing, and sure enough, that very
because they can sense what you're not on side. But with Sahar, you're on side. All right. Yeah. Hey, it's sorry. Did you need to say something, Shaya?
Yes.
Okay, please.
Several times in my life, I've reached to that point to start to record something about my past, and but it's hard for me. Several times I've reached to that moment. Okay, let's start. And when I want to start, I just block and I cannot. And it's really powerful to.
Well, I think it's part of a continuum. I mean, that episode that you're talking about, the My Dark Past that she recorded that we talked about during the interview. Yes. I mean, it is an exceptional episode in terms of how far she goes talking about her past, but it's part of what Sahar does. I mean, she does a podcast called Unfiltered where she's very open in general about, as Kyan says, about being a young Iranian-Canadian woman and all that comes with that in terms of personal issues, family issues, etc. You're not that way in general, right? I mean, you're more of a private guy. So I think just suddenly doing a podcast where you would like out yourself on everything about your life would feel very unnatural to you, maybe, know?
Even when I go to therapy, I mean, I blocked. I cannot speak to, that's right. It's really hard to speak from.
Wow. You know what? I used to, in therapy, this is how I know I've made progress. But for a long time, when we would get to really difficult stuff about my childhood, I would fall asleep.
Wow.
This. I'd fall asleep.
Really?
In the middle of I'd yawn and fall asleep. And that is something that happens when someone is dealing with past trauma or dealing with things that they don't want to deal with. They sometimes that's the fight or flight. That the flight is the shutdown of just like
Wow.
That's crazy. But I don't anymore. I more so fall asleep during our show.
When Reza
the
talks?
trauma of talking to Reza,
That's when I do therapy after the show.
So, tell me what it's like to work with Captain Reza. You've fallen asleep. What? Trauma. Hey, it's Thursday. You know what that means, everybody out there. She's a dear friend, a diaspora blend, a tennis-playing sensation, and a bicultural relation, a lovable, smart, occasionally funny person, and on a journey to discover what we actually discovered. Here we go, Bachaha. It's all Persian to us with Kyan Nademi.
That's trauma for you right there.
All right. The sound of one person clapping. You guys don't even clap anymore for the Kyan theme. What do we got? I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah.
You teased us earlier in the show something about cats.
Yes.
This episode of It's All Persian to Us, where we discover what we actually discovered in terms of Persians. Take it away. Kyan Nademi.
Speaking of being number one, as you mentioned earlier, you know, you and Sahar were discussing this. Yes.
I remember what happened half an hour ago. Yes.
It's no secret that the Persian Empire was once the largest and most powerful empire that the world had ever seen. In fact, an estimated 44% of the world's total population was being ruled during the Achaemenid dynasty in 480 BC. Did you guys know this?
Yes.
44%. Did you really?
Well, I knew it was
44% of the world. That's almost the whole world. Well, half.
Yes. Less than half, actually. But yes.
It's less than half, Kyan.
Yeah. Well,
Almost the whole
keep
world.
going, Kyan.
anyway,
It's okay.
So so the largest world empire doesn't just happen overnight, you know. It takes a lot of work. It takes skills, experience, resilience, and creativity to conquer, rule, and maintain such vast lands and peoples. Like creating one of the fiercest armies ever known to the world, for example.
It's not easy being conquerors.
It sure is not. Yeah, I'll tell you that much.
Takes a lot of
I'll have
creativity,
you
Captain
know,
Reza.
yeah. They had to come up with crafty ways to maintain that warrior edge through inventions like the high heel, for example, to keep soldiers secure on horseback while shooting arrows, or the invention of polo to train soldiers to be skillful fighters on horseback. Another way was to introduce the world's first ever chart of human rights to unite people from different nations, cultures, and religions. This all helped maintain peace and order under the Persian Empire. So being crafty has always been the way Persians expanded and maintained a vast empire ranging from North Africa all the way east to India. Well, in 525 BC, during the reign of Cambyses II, the king was feeling quite restless. I mean, his father was Cyrus the Great, so to say that he had big shoes to fill is an understatement. Cyrus had, after all, established the Persian Empire, conquered Babylon, freed the Jews, introduced human rights, you know, small stuff like that. So how could Cambyses II, the successor and oldest son of Cyrus the Great, possibly top all of that? The answer lies in North Africa, a jewel by the name of Egypt, a prosperous and powerful empire of its own right. And as the saying goes in ancient times, conquer or be conquered. So conquer it was, as King Cambyses II drew up the plans to march towards the land of the pharaohs, where he'd face off against Amesses II, ruler of Egypt. According to Herodotus, however, it's said that the conflict between Persia and Egypt all started when King Cambyses II asked the pharaoh of Egypt, Amesses II, for his daughter's hand in marriage.
So hang on a second. Let me recap. There's a Persian Empire.
Yes.
Things are being kept peace and order, as you
Yes.
say. I'm not sure.
more
Not sure
or
if
less.
that's universal peace during the
Yes.
Persian Empire, but okay.
Right.
There's Persian Empire.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yes.
44%.
Right.
Which is, as we know, almost the whole world.
the entire-
Almost. Yes.
And
Not enough, but sure.
And then there's this jewel in North Africa
Yes.
called Egypt. And the Persians want to take Egypt as
Yes,
well.
well, the reality of ancient times is, like I said, if they don't actually conquer those lands, they risk being conquered.
Right,
So
yes.
they had to make a move before the Egyptians made a move. So
Yes.
it basically came down to that.
Okay.
They had to do what they had to do, Jian.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, back to, what was I even saying? Yes, Herodotus. This is Herodotus' take of what actually happened.
Okay.
So
Who's he?
he's the Greek historian that basically wrote all of the ancient
right.
times, but not the most reliable source. I'll get to that. So anyway, so King Cambyses II asked the pharaoh of Egypt, Amesses II, for his daughter's hand in marriage. Not willing to part with his daughter, he sent the daughter of the previous pharaoh instead. Wow. Well, Cambyses.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Well.
Hang on a second.
Yes. Go on.
So who who offers the daughter?
So the pharaoh did not want to actually send his own daughter.
But who's our Persian?
So the story goes that Cambyses the second.
Cambyses Hosseini the second.
You guys are ruining everything.
No, sorry. Cambyses asks for the pharaoh's daughter.
Yes, he wanted to make unity and
by marrying the daughter.
That's how they did it back then. Right. That's how they did it. So this guy,
little
this
does
pharaoh,
he know, he gets sent the
right. Well, Cambyses was no fool. He soon discovered this trickery and felt extremely insulted and waged a war against Egypt.
Wrong. Oh, okay.
What?
Right.
Did you say wrong?
The wrong daughter.
Right, exactly. He figured it out. He's like, wait a minute, something's fishy here. Yeah. So whether this narrative is true or not, we don't know. I mean, the Greeks weren't exactly the most reliable source in Persian history, but Nonetheless, Cambyses II did in fact wage...
She's still angry at the Greeks.
I know.
She's like, I don't know if we can trust those people. It's been 3,000 years, but...
but nonetheless, Cambyses II did in fact wage war against Egypt. This is a fact.
Should we take an entire episode for this? This is very long.
Well, it's about to get really interesting.
Oh boy. Okay.
Now he was planning a battle in the middle of the harsh Egyptian desert against...
Who was? Cambyses.
Oh my God! Is anybody listening?
Well, I'm trying to keep it straight for everybody. All right, because there's a lot of information here. You're throwing it all out there. I mean, you want people to tune in or not? So Cambyses now is going after Egypt because of the daughter issue.
Allegedly, but the other story.
But we don't know because the Greeks told that story.
Yeah, but for all we know, he just.
Why are the Greeks telling the story of the Persians and the Egyptians?
They burned down our books, Jian, when Alexander the Great came over, and this, it's all gone.
But how did the Greeks know about this?
How do you know about what happened yesterday in the world? News travels.
They had books. Their books wasn't burned.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Oh, I see. They wrote the books about what happened, but they weren't there, is what I'm saying.
They weren't there. Listen, with everything in history, like we weren't there, right? We're just kind of taking.
But Abbas Milani tells me. That's how I know. I read his stuff, but I don't know why they. Anyway, all right, okay.
Right. So
I'm trying to figure this out. All right, please.
So Cambyses.
I'm not like these guys who pretend they know all of this. I don't know. I'm asking.
So Cambyses II was planning a battle in the middle of the harsh Egyptian desert against a mighty army on their own turf. So he knew this wouldn't be an easy feat. So he developed a new revolutionary military tactic done by no one else in history. A psychological warfare so advanced, so genius, it would put today's technology to shame.
Now that editorializing, that sort of editorializing about how great the Persian genius was, that's not from the Greeks, right?
No, this is Kyan Nademi.
This is Kyan Nademi. Apparently this is where we get our history from.
That's so reliable. Everyone's shit. We're great.
I'm gonna put you all in timeout so I can finish this goddamn story.
Please.
All right.
Yes, sorry.
So he marched his army into the Battle of Pelusium and made sure each of his soldiers had with them a special protective shield. A cat.
Oh. Wow.
Yes, you heard me. A cat.
Cats are good in the desert?
No, that slick Cambyses was well informed on the customs and beliefs of the Egyptians. Rule number 1 of war, know thy enemy. The Egyptians had many gods.
I thought it was conquer before you get conquered.
That too.
It's a lot of rules.
Rule number 2.
Haven't you read the Art of War? There is a whole list of laws. Yeah,
right. I have not read that actually.
It's a good book actually. The Egyptians had many gods and goddesses, one of which was the goddess Bastet. She had the head of a cat and the body of a woman. And killing a cat was the biggest insult to the goddess, which was punishable by death in Egypt. In fact, cats were so sacred that they were held above humans. If a building was on fire, for example, the cats would be saved before the humans would. Another fun fact, if a cat died of natural death, the whole Egyptian household would mourn the loss by shaving their eyebrows. I have no idea why. These are just things that...
Little Oogie's not going to be happy with it.
Yeah. All that to say, cats were pretty sacred in Egypt, to say the least. And Cambyses knew this, of course, so he used their own religion against them. Wow. Hit them where it hurts, right? Yeah. So the Persian army plowed through the streets of Egypt, swinging cats and taking names. Meow. PETA didn't exist in ancient times, by the way, in case you're wondering.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were swinging the cats?
Yes, it was a catastrophe.
Okay. All right.
I came with that one on my own.
Yes, that one's clearly you. But right, we don't care.
Right.
You know,
So-
there's no animal rights here.
Right, so-
we're using the cats to
Right.
distract the Egyptians because they're like, stop swinging that. Then we hit the Egyptian.
Well,
Is that-
they basically like let the cats go ahead of them, and they like pick them up and use them as a shield. And the Egyptian soldiers.
This is weird. I don't know about
It
this
is,
story.
I swear to God.
Who told you this story?
I swear.
Where did you get this story?
I swear to God on my mother's life.
Persians
this is a
start
true
swinging
story.
cats and
I'm
then-
serious.
Wait a minute. Is that where the term came
I'm
from?
serious,
Swinging a
yeah.
cat?
What?
Is that where the
It's
term
not
swinging a
enough room
cat?
to swing.
I don't know
I
about
don't
that.
know.
But and the point is, they use
What is the point?
They use the cats.
We win the
against-
war because of the cats?
Can I just get to
all right.
Yeah. So as you can probably already guess, as you have, the Egyptian army didn't fight back. They were too scared of killing a sacred kitty cat and angering the feared goddess Bastet, who would punish them ruthlessly in the afterlife. And soon enough, Egypt fell into the hands of Cambyses II, making Persia the largest empire in the world. So it's at that point when they took over Egypt that they became
because of the cats that we were swinging.
Exactly.
Can't wait for somebody to write in. You know there's going to be
It's
like,
true.
I'm a professor of history at the University of Florida.
I swear to
Please
God.
detain the person who was telling this
I'm
story.
serious.
Yeah.
I will reference
serious.
the
No,
hell out
you're
of
very
it.
serious. Yeah,
so,
okay, all right.
Yeah, so let me go on. And rule they did. That is, of course, until some brat named Alexander disrupted things a bit and ruined everything pretty much. Rude. But I digress. So the Persian Empire had to constantly be innovative and crafty with the way they ruled. That's the only way they were able to rule such a vast empire spanning 3 continents for hundreds of years. And according to Sun Tzu's famous book, The Art of War, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Well, know their enemy they did, and in the end, it's all Persian to us. Meow.
Well, that's great. So what is that we discovered?
So
The use of cats.
as a war.
I'm waiting for what.
No,
what is the? It's all Persian to us.
The
yeah.
war strategy
how
of
to win-
using cats against them. I mean, as horrible as it is,
Right.
it's kind of genius in a way. It's like, how could we defeat the mighty Egyptians?
So they
I've
rounded up
brought
thousands
cats.
of cats.
Yeah, that's right.
And entered the Egyptian desert swinging the cats.
Dude,
I don't know.
Pretty much. It's like
that's
this.
how U.S. won the Iraq War, dude. I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Yes.
But if it's true, they got screwed.
No, I mean it is.
Why,
It's definitely.
why are you guys questioning this?
No.
I'm a little
because I think
offended.
it's. I first of all, I don't question that something happened to do with a cat, and but it just seems extraordinary. The
It
army
is.
rounded up cats and took them
Right.
and then swung them.
Right. So I mean, listen,
My
cats
question,
were
where
sacred.
did they get the cats from? Did they bring them from Iran? Because it would take like
You're
years to
asking very
travel
specific-
from.
listen,
And what
man.
did they feed the cats?
You
to
know,
keep
when
them
I- when I-
healthy
Cats
for the
would die-
Egyptians to be
cats-
scared of them.
And cats only live like 15 years. It would take probably 10 years to get to Egypt. So
No.
you gotta bring.
No,
you
what
get
are you?
a kitty
No.
What are
cat.
you? What are you talking
What are
about?
you
What do you
talking
think?
It takes
about?
10
Flew
years
to
to get
Egypt, like they
No,
have
it
horses
takes,
and
it
walked.
takes months. It takes months to,
month?
and they
First of
also
all,
use ships.
they're in
to-
high heels, so they can run. The Persians are running in their heels
Oh man!
all the way to Egypt with the cats. Now, listen, don't we know how did they, she's right. There was a Persian Empire. Someone had to. I mean, we had to. How do you do a Persian Empire? You know, you have to rule the thing with what did you
Cats.
say? Ingenuity and creativity and
craftiness.
craftiness.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a most interesting education. Thank you.
It sure has.
So
Thank you
Leandro.
for
Yeah.
Do you know what's the pronunciation of Cambyses in Farsi?
Cambyses.
No.
No?
No, come.
Go on.
It's Cambodia.
Oh yeah.
Cambodia. I'm naming my firstborn Cambodia.
Cambodia.
So wait, why? How do you go from Cambodia to Cambyses?
But how do you go from Kurosh to Cyrus?
Yeah,
Same thing.
well.
Yeah.
No, but
How
that's
did
no. But Cyrus is the Greek
Jian.
word for Kurush. So how do you go for Cambodia, Persian name, to Cambyses?
Cambyses.
To Cambyses. Cambyses
Cambyses is not Cambyses. It's Cambyses. you said.
No, but in
Jian said
Iranian,
combi.
in
I said
Iranian,
combis. I
no,
don't
but
know
in
what I'm talking
Iranian, it's combis, like combis Hosseini.
Oh, is it
for
the same
example.
thing?
Yeah.
But
I don't
the
know.
son of Cyrus is Cambodia.
Cambodia.
as I
And
know.
that somehow
But
changed
maybe
to-
maybe Cambodia.
about. All I know is my steak had Cambodia on it. There wasn't enough Cambodia on my steak.
You look pretty Cambodian today.
I got
Jan.
some-
They're pretty
yeah.
bougie.
I've been cutting down. I'm Cambodia these days. I'm like,
Listen, guys, write to us, please. Somebody back
Please
me up
fix
here.
this.
This is a
Yeah.
true
Tell
story.
us what happened with the cats.
These guys don't believe me.
there's historians who listen to this show. They
tell-
really are.
I
and
pulled
they're-
this from historians.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm
Well,
sure.
According to you, not a very good
No,
one.
that-
Herodotus is.
Well, no, that's one take
Were
on the story.
were the historians called BuzzFeed by any chance on the internet? No,
I
it's
read a lot.
fascinating. I love it. I love the whole story. I learn. And now, what was the period when this happened with the
Oh,
cats?
this
and
would have
what
been
the year?
What was it? Pause.
Okay.
Pause.
4200 BC.
No. It was 525 BC. Yeah.
525
So this would have
BC.
been immediately after the rule of Cyrus the Great. And actually the story is that Cyrus the Great already had the plans in place to take over Egypt
Mm-hmm,
because, apparently they were a little ruthless to the Egyptians. So
I
they're
think
like,
everybody
listen, we
was
need
ruthless.
to spread our humanity and peace.
In
and
the day, everyone was ruthless.
Yeah,
Except
well,
for the
to
English football
cats,
team.
too.
Could use a little bit more ruthlessness. Thank you, Kyan Doch, the fabulous Kyan, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Captain Reza. Thank you, Groovy Shaya. This is full time for Roqe for today. Thank you to Sahar Golshani for coming into our Roqe studio today. For all things Roqe, including becoming a patron of this show, roqemedia.com. roqemedia.com, where you can find all of our episodes, all of our guests, and the button to support us and become a patron. By the way, thank you again to Mo Rahimian and Inshufin for helping to make this program happen today. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Producer Susan, Ponta the artist, Thoughtful Nagin, the fabulous Kyan, Super Parisa, Sabi Roham, Ahoy Mertad, sponsorship Sean, Captain Reza, and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to those of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. And subscribe on any or all of our platforms if you've not done so already. Find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi and Mizun Bashi.